I'm always glad to be with you, and I appreciate those of you who are so faithful to being a part of these devotions. I want to talk about the fourth chapter of Matthew, verses 1 through 11. There's a story that is told. I don't know whether it's true or not, but the story has been widely circulated. George Bugg, the esteemed pastor at Madison Avenue Presbyterian Church, had been away from New York to speak to a group of people. He was on his way back to New York, and sitting next to him was a well-dressed man. Buttrick was working, and the man next to him said, "I see you're working so hard. What is it that you're doing?" Buttrick said, "Well, I'm a minister and I'm preparing my sermon for Sunday." The man said, "Well, I'm not really into all that religion. For me, it's just do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Buttrick looked at the man. He said, "By the way, what do you do?" He said, "I'm an astronomer. I teach at a college." Buttrick said, "Well, I'm not really into all of that astronomy. For me, it just boils down to twinkle, twinkle, little star." Now, the problem with that is that it takes two things that are very complex, astronomy and our faith in Christ, and reduces them to twinkle, twinkle, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That really is a problem. It's a problem that I face in my own life. Taking the scriptures and reducing them to a size that I can handle. The scriptures, when I do that, lose their disruptive quality. Scriptures are intended to disrupt our lives. What we're beginning is what is called Lent, a 40-day journey to Easter, not counting the Sundays. This is the first Sunday of Lent. It's not a story about what you and I give, but it is a story about Jesus and what he gives. In fact, this story of the temptation of Jesus is so central that if Jesus had gone the way of the tempter, we would have no Easter and no Lent. Led by the Spirit into the wilderness. The Spirit always is with you and me, leading us in the difficult times as well as in the good times. Led by the Spirit into the wilderness, and the tempter says to him, "Why don't you turn these stones into bread?" What a wonderful thing for Jesus to do. You and I are concerned about hunger in the world. We're concerned about hunger here in the United States, where few people have so much, and so many people have so little. And children are going to bed. The last thing they're saying is, "Mommy, I'm hungry." Turn the stones into bread. And Jesus said, not that this is a bad thing, but that Jesus has come for people to hear all of the words that he has to say. The second temptation begins as the first one by the tempter saying, "Now, if you are the Son of God." What an interesting thing. He is talking about Jesus' fundamental identity. Now, if you are the Son of God, I want you to go up to the pinnacle of the temple and throw yourself off, and angels will catch you and you won't bruise anything on your body. It's kind of the temptation for the spectacular. Jesus, do this, and people will see that you can jump from the pinnacle of the temple and do what no other person can do. And Jesus said, you don't understand. What I'm talking about in faith is not spectacular, because for you and me, so much of what happens in our lives is just in the ordinary times of life. We discover God in just the ordinary moments of life. Finally, the tempter says, I want you to go with me to the highest mountain and look out at all of the nations. And I want you to understand that all of these will be yours. And then the tempter says, if you worship me. Now, wouldn't that be a good thing? Because here we are living in a time with over 35,000 people, and probably many more by the time that all of the excavation is done, people in earthquake in Turkey and Syria. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have Jesus as the head of all nations? No more wars, no more earthquakes, no more hurricanes, no more tornadoes, no more difficulties among nations. But the catch is, if you worship me, the tempter said. And Jesus looks at the tempter and he says, we are to worship God alone and to serve God. That really is the heart of all of this. We are called to realize the worth of God. We're beginning the journey to Easter. And what is the problem, at least for me, maybe not for you, but it is for a lot of people, and that is we have taken Easter and we have failed to let it really disrupt our lives. What are the things that we need to give to God? What are the actions? What are the attitudes? What is burning inside of us? Anger, resentment, discouragement. So many of these things are part of our lives. We're making our way to Easter. What do we need to give to Jesus? Had Jesus said yes to the tempter, we would have no Easter, and we could just shut this all down right now. No Lent, no Easter, if Jesus says yes. But what Jesus said yes to was dying on a cross and being raised on the third day. Dying an excruciating death. That's what he said yes to. And while you and I are not going to be nailed to the cross, what we are called to do is to look deeply into our lives. What attitudes, what actions are keeping us from really following the Christ. And what happens is we die to those things in order to be raised to newness of life. Easter is the central, pivotal event of the Christian faith. And if we don't take it seriously, if we don't see Jesus dying and being raised, if that doesn't disrupt our lives and cause us to ask, what is it that I need to give to Jesus in order to follow him? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The golden rule, and it's wonderful. But folks, if that's all we have, we don't have very much. And if we don't allow Easter to disrupt our lives and make us realize that we are called to die to ourselves, die to our self-centeredness in order to be raised, we will have missed it all. That's our hope. Our hope is to follow Jesus out of the wilderness, die to ourselves, and be raised in newness of life.